What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron Uncensored podcast show. Everything that we do it on YouTube, podcasts, social media platforms. Make sure you go follow all those and subscribe, all that good stuff. So obviously, we have been doing the ACC previews. We've had a live show recently about the college football 25 game, which everybody's excited about. So we've been doing a lot. We're knee deep in previews and trying to figure out who these teams are going to be in the 2024 season. And I'll tell you, some of these teams they really lay it out. They've got some good blog sites and stuff that'll kind of tell you more about their team. But some of them it's hard to come by. It's like they don't care or they just know they're going to be trash this season. Uh, so they're like, I'm not putting the effort in. Either way, 2024 we got previews rolling on. Yesterday we did Notre Dame, NC State, and Pitt. Tonight we are filming SMU, Stanford, and Syracuse. So if you're fans of those teams, get ready and let us know what you think about our opinions on it, and tell us what you think about your team. Trev, we're going straight into SMU.
That's right.
And we were talking about it off screen, but we'll just roll with it. The portal. And we look at, I know we'll touch on it some more in depth, but when you look at SMU in the portal, they went out and got a whole bunch of people, but they lost a decent amount, and half of them are uncommitted.
So half of them are uncommitted.
What is going on at this point? So this is a little portal talk. Why are people waiting so long to commit? Or is it hard to find a team right now? I mean, I don't know.
Well, look, at this point, the four most recent ones, I guess I can kind of understand. Sure. They may be still trying to find a home. They only the latest ones to enter the portal were entered in on April 30th. But there are some that are still uncommitted that entered the portal in January.
Yeah.
Or some in December even.
December, I see yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's some in December. I didn't even see them. Good night. So
like, what is going on? What are you doing?
What's going on, fellas? What's going on?
I don't know. Maybe I guess you don't have to commit right away. You can wait till school's done and then focus on the recruiting process. I could maybe see that, but spots fill up, and these teams want to be ready before summer football starts, summer conditioning.
Yeah,
and you want to get enrolled. You want to get all your stuff transferred. You don't want to wait. It's crazy.
I could see some boomerangs happen because there's only so much money to go around, and I do think there's a lot of money out there to go around. But for the 3 stars of the world and under, there's not a lot of money to go around if you're looking for a bag. So I guess what I'm trying to say is kind of wrap up the process here, guys. Figure it out, commit somewhere. It doesn't mean that you have to leave your school right away. You just need to solidify your spot somewhere.
Exactly. Really, the fall portal is the one where you got to be like, okay, I got to go. If I'm going to go, I'm going.
If I'm going to go. Yeah.
But yes, spring you got more leeway. So I guess a little bit of sense, but at the same time, to me, I'd want to. All right, let's lock this thing down. Like you said, commit somewhere, call it a day, focus on studies, and then transfer out.
Yeah.
Either way, so that's just a little thing about the transfer portal that we're just talking about. What do you guys think about it? Let us know.
Definitely hit us up on that and tell us what you think, because I personally, just looking at the transfer portal, I think SMU absolutely destroyed. Just killed it. Just absolutely killed it in the portal.
I definitely agree.
From where they're coming from to they're starting their first season in the ACC this year, and to have that kind of transfer portal, that kind of depth, even maybe not even starters, but depth to come in there, make a better competition of all the different positions that are coming in. I think it's going to be a great thing for SMU.
I agree, and I had a tidbit. Remind me, Trevor, at the end of the show, because I don't think it fits here. We'll talk about it later. I meant to do it earlier, but it skipped my mind. It's about college football 25. But yes, talking about SMU in that portal class and how they were last year too. Last year, was a really good season for them. 11-3. They won the AAC, not the ACC, the AAC, the American Conference. They did lose to new conference member Boston College in the bowl game, and they made that move. They jumped to the ACC, in this offseason, and they knew that they had to go out and beef up their ranks. You're going and playing a higher level of ball. I know some people may not like to hear that, but it is true. These games, there's deeper talent, deeper rosters.
Especially this year in the ACC. Especially this year in the ACC, it's very all over the place.
It feels a lot deeper. And now SMU, Tulane, these guys have recruited well. They've always played strong and hard, but they saw what they need to do. And Rhett Lashley went out and loaded up. I mean, straight up, I think he killed it in the portal.
Yep.
It's the highest ranked. It's maybe not the best class. It's 31st over 31st. It's the 31st. Oh my gosh. It's the 31st overall portal class. And like you said earlier, Trevor, they brought in 19 people. And they're littered from across the Power Four. Some guys from other group of 5 conferences. But guys that should step in and definitely fill, or even especially on the offensive line, they might be
start. They might not be starters, but they might get significant.
Yeah.
They might be the number 2 or 1A, 1B situation where they just rotate them in and out to keep people fresh.
Yep. Yeah, it's very possible. But they went out and did a really good job. And again, Lashley, I think he's shown improvement every year. He is 18-9 as a head coach at SMU. But again, they're going into the ACC now, and they knew what they had to do in the offseason, and I think they've accomplished that task. The portal, like we said, they made big movements. Trevor, I think you mentioned him off screen, Savion Boyd, or Bird, excuse me.
Yeah, Bird.
He looks. I think he's going to be really good for him.
Potentially, I think he'll be a starter for him on that offensive line. He's such a big dude. And if I remember correctly, he did play for Oklahoma last year.
Yeah. And really, when you look at the spring game and, some of the holes that they're filling this year for SMU, they do return a pretty decent amount, 78% of their production from last season. So, I mean, you're looking at, you brought in all these guys and you already have a lot of guys returning. Now you're looking at plug and play, rotational, even some, hey, I need better up front. And that's where they're kind of weak, in my opinion, is the offensive line. So if these guys coming in can fill that gap and even, help the guys that were already in there, step up and play a little bit better, this is going to be a dangerous team in the ACC.
Yep, certainly will.
And I mean, again, Preston Stone, he's been around for a minute. He was injured last year, which did hamper their season. But at the same time, they still went 11-3, and they bring him back. I'm telling you guys, watch out for old SMU. I'm not saying they're going to win the conference. That's a hell of a task in year one, but I think they can shake it up.
I think what's going to end up happening with SMU is they're going to shoot their shot, for lack of a better term, at some of these bigger games, maybe against Florida State, maybe against Louisville, and really go after these teams and put them on notice. Because look, I don't know how much you guys all are aware of the situation surrounding SMU joining the ACC, but they basically told the ACC they want to join the ACC. However, they're not taking any sort of money from the pockets of the other members of the ACC for a total of 5 years before they will receive any sort of revenue share.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of telling. It's like basically SMU's got some deep pockets.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just be real about that. Everybody kind of knows the history of SMU. But
yeah,
it also tells you their confidence level that they can come in and really compete and really go after the teams in the ACC. And I think they will.
Yep. And again, this is a team that, like you said, was huge back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got the death sentence. And then it's just kind of been, withering. And then they've kind of been growing back and kind of getting their name back under themselves. And I think the respect is there for them. And they saw a chance when it came to conference realignment, and they jumped at it.
They took an opportunity. Absolutely.
Their boosters, their donors were like, "This is the time. If we want to get back, all this shit's changing. Now is the time.
Yep.
Let's execute right now." And they did it, and they forked that money up.
Yeah, and with SMU, you already know they have deep pockets, and on top of that, now it's perfectly legal to pay the players. So now there's really nothing to worry about.
Yeah, they're golden, man. They're golden, pony boy, if you will. So
Brendan, real quick,
going back to the 80s, bro.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, let's talk about their schedule real quick.
Absolutely.
And how it kind of lines up for them here. So, I mean, the first 3 games, I think, are very winnable games. They're not going to be I think BYU coming in may be tough one for them. BYU is always kind of one of those, it's not trying to get weird with it, but it could be like a religious war type thing going on there.
I mean, it's in the name, it's
I mean, they're 2 very religious schools, and both very proud traditions in both schools. It's that game is kind of one where I think it's Nevada. What is it? That's not UConn. Who is that?
What, HCU? That's a FCS program.
Okay, not 100%. Now I got to click on them to know what they call themselves.
I know that's one of them. You look at it, you're like, who the hell is that?
All right, so all it says is HCU athletics. That helps me out a lot. All right,
yeah.
So
either way, FCS team,
FCS,
but at least they're playing them early. All right, and then like you said, I do like that BYU game. That's actually a really cool matchup.
Yep. That is a cool matchup. It will be.
I enjoy that. And then
I think it'll be. It's an interesting stretch though, Brendan, because I think that BYU game starts a stretch that is going to be a little difficult for SMU. But if they can come out of it, maybe get one upset out of the bunch, and I think beat BYU, beat TCU, maybe severely upset Florida State. I think they would be sitting really good the rest of the way.
Oh, I mean, shit, yeah. And like you said, this starts a stretch of really that defines their season. BYU, TCU in the rivalry game, across town, and then you got Florida State, like you said, Louisville. Really, the rest of the way, Duke's. They've got pieces like we've said on defense. The offense, you need to see what they are. Stanford, we're going to talk about them soon. I don't see that as a threat. Pitt, I kind of feel the same way. Boston College could potentially be, a good offense. Virginia, well, I don't really see them too much as a threat necessarily. And then a good one in Cal.
Yeah, good one in Cal. I think that will be a very tough matchup to end the season.
But I will say, I know they've got all their returning production from last year. I mean, all their main guys on offense are back, and that's huge. Mm-hmm. But again, this was a group of 5 team jumping into the Power 4 now. Any of these games could be toss-ups. We look at things and we see, what they've got on a research and what they're bringing back and what they've done in the portal and continuity coaching staff. Those are huge helpers for jumping into a new conference.
100%.
But any of these teams could knock them down. So I feel like this is another one that it could. We just really need to see how those first 3 games play out. Yeah. Nevada, they need to go spank Nevada. HCU, I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. How they play BYU is going to be telling if they're ready for this level of football.
Hey, Brendan, do you have the over/under on what they have for SMU?
Yeah, brother. It's 7.5 is the SMU.
Okay.
Is the
all right. I think that's fair. I think that's fair for SMU.
Absolutely respectable. I mean, so that you would have to hit the over, you'd have to hit 8 wins.
Yeah.
And 3.
I think that's possible. It's certainly possible.
Oh, I could easily see 8 wins. Easily. I could see 9, 10. It just it depends on, how the cards fold, out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But no, it's an interesting season. I'm excited to see what SMU does because I do like this team a lot.
I need to get me an SMU hat because I think I love their logo. I want to get like a Dallas. I want to see what kind of hats they have because I bet you they got some cool ones.
Oh hell yeah! But they're one definitely to check out. But yeah, so I could see an over definitely for SMU.
Right.
Again, if you're an SMU fan, let us know what you think. Are you excited about the ACC this year? If you're not, let us know that too. Are you scared shitless of going to a new conference? I don't know. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, truly, in this era of realignment to really stamp your name, as a smaller program.
100%.
And I say that, in a respectful manner too. I say the same thing about Houston, UCF, huge opportunities for these teams. A team, Trevor, move away from SMU and get into the next S team. Again, we are going alphabetical. Stanford. Yeah. Stanford is a team that has really fallen off. All right. I mean, they were bad, and then Jim Harbaugh resurrected them. David Shaw kind of kept them going until he didn't. And then it's just kind of been, not so good. And last year, again, horrible season, 3-9, 2-7 in conference. And now they're going into the ACC.
And I'm going to tell you right now, their schedule does not line up well to do any better. Oh my God. Listen to this, Brenda. This is crazy. So they have TCU. It's whatever, but TCU more than likely will beat them. Cal Poly, I hope they win. At Syracuse, man, that probably will be a loss, but it might be a win. Then you go at Clemson, Virginia Tech, at Notre Dame. SMU comes in. You get Wake Forest. Then it's at NC State versus Louisville comes in. Then at Cal, and then San Jose State, which is, look, I don't care what anyone says. San Jose State is no joke. No matter what, they always play hard.
They do. And now I know they have a new coaching staff this year, but still,
they do.
They always play. But before we talk about that, I'm gonna take another drink because I need it for looking at that schedule.
That's rough.
Good Lord, seriously, Clemson. They said Syracuse, Virginia Tech. I mean, that whole middle section is brutal.
These guys didn't miss any of
play.
These guys didn't. They only got to miss FSU, but they got the rest of the favorites.
Yeah, they missed one, but got the whole freaking family.
Yeah, no kidding.
And like you said, our early game against TCU, which I think that'll be a win for TCU. And we're not even trying to dog on you guys before we start. It's just simply looking at it. You're like, that's tough.
It's very tough. But here's the problem. This is the reason why I say the schedule is so rough. You guys lost 14 and you brought in 4.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
And I know that Stanford's always had a problem with this. And I'm sure they're going to continue to have a problem with this because the administration has these admittance rules at 1. And then the timing for Stanford's enrollees, it's a little different than everywhere else in the country. I don't have the exact differences, but I remember Harbaugh doing an interview talking about that when he was a head coach at San Francisco. I think it was his first or second year. He was talking about the difficulties he had with the scheduling of the Stanford school schedule.
Yeah. And I mean, any of the academic schools really do have trouble with recruiting and stuff too. They don't have the same leniencies that other major conferences or even teams inside of major conferences have. It's just unfortunate. It's part of it. But the like you mentioned, Trevor, the administration has to get behind. If you want your football program to be anything, you've got to work around academics or find a way to get your football team the guys that they need. Transfers may not credit. Michigan has that problem at times. Notre Dame has that problem. Northwestern, all these schools, they have those issues. Even in the transfer portal right now, teams like that have these issues. So you got to get behind your team. You just made the move to the ACC because you don't want to get left behind. But you're like hamstringing your coach. It's just one of those things that I don't really understand. I know academics are important, but get out there and help your football team. how much money that program brings in for the rest of school, to me, I empty your pockets and do what you got to do.
Yep. They certainly need to.
And now, like Stanford last year again, they went 3-9. Their over/under this year is 3.5. Okay, so it's not looking any better. And again, you look at that schedule, and I understand why. However, they bring back a large chunk of production from last year, and now I'll say that doesn't necessarily always matter. It's a nice stat. It's like, okay, we got continuity. We've got guys that have been in the system. They should, develop a little bit more. But if they were bad last year, how much growth is going to happen? Especially when you're only bringing in 4 in the transfer portal and you're not really able to, I don't know, plug the gap. Get your guys to, to battle each other and to grow. So
there's that. They do bring in. They are bringing in the 47th best recruiting class, so there's that.
That's good.
So it's not bad for them. They've got a really good quarterback out of California, a 4-star, top 200 player, top 15 player in the state of California, and Elijah Brown, a quarterback, 6'1", 200 pounds. That's pretty good. They also have another 4-star out of Connecticut, Benedict Uma, a D lineman, 6'5", 260. They are both enrolled, not just signed their letter of intent, but are enrolled at the school. So they are actively with the team, more than likely.
Yeah.
The other 4-star that they have is not enrolled as of yet, but he more than likely is with the team by now. And that's Cole Tabb, a running back out of Florida. 5'7", 190 pounds. He is the 38th best player in the state of Florida, 20th ranked running back. And he's also 4-star. So they've got some good signees. Yeah. And they definitely did. They have 19. So they had 25 total commits in the 2024 class.
That's good.
So that's not a bad recruiting class for them. And a few 4-stars, mostly 3-stars.
And I know we've been negative about it in them, and we're not trying to be. But again, we're not going to blow smoke up every team. Like you got to be ready. Yeah. Well, we see it's going to be a rough year. And now Troy Taylor, I mean, he's going in his second season, and you look at, like you mentioned, Trevor, in the transfer portal, you lost 14 players. Half of them are uncommitted. You did your best guy at tight end, and Urosic went to Georgia. He's pretty highly touted tight end. They're hurting to see him leave. And then Jackson Moy went to Tennessee. But I do look at the portal. I know they only brought 4 in. They do have 85% returning production. So, I mean, that's damn near the whole team is coming back. The guys that they got, one's coming from UNLV as a D lineman, 6'3", 300 pounds. So he's good size. Griffin Weiss, I believe is how you'd say the last name. He's a tight end, 6'5", so good size. He comes from Washington. And then Javion Green, a cornerback, 6'2", with good size, 207 coming in from Washington. So you got guys that have been on really good teams. Even UNLV's had good teams too. So you have some experience coming in, even if they're backup guys. It's something. You just would like to see a little bit more. Even if you got to give them put them as walk-ons, doesn't matter. Find a way to get more depth on the team, because that's what you need, especially in the ACC, and trying to run through this gauntlet of a schedule. When you look at it, God, I keep going back, and I'm just like, man, this is going to be tough.
I mean, just the November stretch is rough, super rough. NC State, Louisville, Cal, just right. Those three right in a row, week in and week out. That's rough.
Yeah,
that's rough.
It really is, especially with Cal being, I think, much better this year.
I think they're going to be what, I don't want to say that they're going to be what Louisville was last year. Kind of flew under the radar most of the preseason. And then even though I picked them Louisville last year as my dark horse, there was a part of me that thought that they may not. There's a reason why they were my dark horse and not my favorite.
No, I could definitely see why you'd say that. That's a good analogy in my opinion. Um, I'll talk a little bit more about Stanford just real quick. Ashton Daniels looks to be the main quarterback this season, and then they do get their 2 top wide receivers back from injury, so that does help. These little things you see parts where they're like, okay, could they get over that 3.5 over under? Yes, it could happen, especially if the offense clicks. But the defense was awful last season, and that's where you need the help, and that's where you see they brought these guys in from the portal, and hopefully they help them out. But they're 129th total defense in 2023. I know it's a new year, people develop, get better, and change, but it is a little concerning. I don't know if they get over that 3.5. They might get. I could maybe see a 4th win, but it's going to be tough, and you better be playing your best football week in and week out. Don't get down on yourselves. Try to build some momentum going into 2025.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the way I see Stanford rolling. It's going to be a rough season just because that schedule is not. It's not nice.
It's a bit brutal in certain stretches.
God dog, man.
Yeah, it's a little bit bad.
Well, let's stop being the bearers of bad news.
Sorry, Stanford. We don't really mean to we're not necessarily bashing on you. I mean, really, I really do hope you do pull off an upset or two just to make things interesting. I really would enjoy that.
Yeah, I always have respected Stanford, and especially their academic side of it and everything. In the football program, it's a lot of cool traditions out there. Mm-hmm. And you hope to see them get back to what Harbaugh and Shaw had. Because when they're good, it's fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like a fun team. You would root for Stanford. Nobody hates Stanford that I not anybody that I know of, except for Cal and maybe Oregon State, Washington State. They hate them now, but I digress. That's water under the bridge, boys. That's water under the bridge. Let's go on to Syracuse, Trevor, because Syracuse is kind of on the other end of the spectrum.
Whew,
they've had a wonderful off season.
Yes, they have.
And Fran Brown's their first-year head coach, hired, and they're really excited what he brings to the table, and especially what he's been doing in the portal.
Yep, they sure have. The portal looks great for them right now. I'll tell you, they've been doing really good things. Their recruiting class was okay. It wasn't the best, but their transfer portal, they definitely went all in on it a bit. Granted, there was majority of them were 3 stars, but they did get Fadil Diggs, an edge rusher from Texas A&M, 6'5", 250. I think he can be a plug-and-play player, highly rated player. And then obviously, everyone knows Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
So there's the QB1 right there for you. And I really think he's a good quarterback. I don't care what anyone says. And I know there's a bunch of open arms about Ohio State crying that he was even pictured in the game preview. I've been seeing it all over social media today. But really, you got to put Kyle McCord on there.
Well, there's some salty folks out there about
that. Man, so salty.
Oh my God.
But let's talk about while they do have some pretty decent pieces coming in, let's talk about how many went out. Because that's a story in and of itself. They had 27 players leave. Now, that being said, there is a good chunk of them that are not committed at this point in time.
Yeah,
and even Jaleel Smith, who's a D lineman, withdrew his transfer from the early transfer portal.
Yeah, so to talk about leaving, you have to go back to 2023 and how that season went. And obviously 6-7, it didn't go well. They got blasted by USF in the bowl game. I mean, eviscerated. So they went and hired Fran. And anytime there's a coaching change, you're going to see some sort of exodus. Especially nowadays with the portal. these guys don't commit to a school. There's some that do, but most commit to a coach or to a
Syracuse isn't one of those places where you commit to the school, not the coach, though.
Yeah, these guys are going to play for who, Dino Babers. Like, they're excited about him. But so once he left, all these guys start jumping ship. But like you mentioned, Trevor, most of them are uncommitted. You got a guy, Kevin Darton went to Arizona, Damian Alford to Utah. So some of them are going to power schools to help plug there. App State's getting one, Nebraska's getting one, a linebacker. So you're losing some talent, even to Wisconsin, Houston,
but nobody rated as a 4-star as far as I can see.
Yeah,
so I mean, it's that I want to say that what Syracuse is attempting to do at this point is kind of up the level of talent that they have on the roster, is what it appears to be. Bring in more Power 4 level players, and obviously continue to recruit. And they don't have the best recruiting class, like I mentioned at the outset. They have, I believe, it's kind of a lower recruiting class. Let me just double check. But
that's one where, again, it's first year is tough because all this is built on relationships. And even, you look at Sharon Moore's recruiting class right now. Everybody's like, oh, they just won the national title. They should. He was just a coordinator. Harbaugh was the head coach. So things changed. Now Fran Brown's the head coach. It's going to take a minute for them to see, his philosophy. But you can sell that to guys that have already played. And you can sell that to these guys in the transfer portal. And that's why they have the 24th ranked transfer portal class.
Yep.
I mean, like you mentioned, these guys are all from, not all of them, but majority are from Power 4 conferences looking for a new opportunity with a new system and a new head coach.
Absolutely. I mean, they have you said that you already mentioned they have the 24 ranked transfer class. And for a Syracuse team that has a head coaching change, they still ended up with the 36th ranked recruiting class.
Yeah.
And I think that's really respectable considering you did go through a coach's change. You still got one of your top prospects to stay with the school, and that's King Joseph Edwards out of Georgia, an edge rusher, 6'4", 230, 4-star, top 40 player in the state of Georgia, which is no slouch by any means. And they also have what looks to be a really good tight end coming in, also out of the state of Georgia. And this young man, Jamie Tremble, 6'4", 210. However, he is the 6th best tight end in the state of Georgia. Also, he is the 19th best player out of Georgia. So 2 really good gets for Syracuse there, I feel like, that could potentially make a difference this year.
Yeah, and that's a great thing too about recruiting and a first-year coach is you can sell that, hey, we're starting fresh.
Yep.
It's a meritocracy. If you come in out of high school and you're the best, you're going to play.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
And that's, something I like when there's a coaching change. I know it sucks, you lose people, but it's like a rebirth. What can we amp up? What can we sell? And there's an excitement, a fresh excitement within the program. And now we talked about kind of what they're bringing in, what they also have currently from that last year program, which was 6-7, which is not horrible.
No, not at all.
You hate seeing how the bowl game went, but they returned 72% of their production. And now Kyle McCord helps a lot of that. Okay. Because when you talk about returning production, you're also talking about guys that are coming in from transfer portal. So these guys aren't, when we talk about returning production, it's people that have had snaps, live game snaps, production on the field. Even if they were on another team last year, it counts to the team that they're currently on because they played. They have those snaps. They have that experience. So when you bring back 72% of snaps, people that have played, that's huge. I mean, that's huge. It's not an be all end all, but it's something. And you look at some guys that that I wrote down. Zeed Haynes apparently has had a really good spring. He looks to be one of the top receivers for McCord this year. They've had a really good rapport. So I mean, if there's a target for McCord right there, You're looking at guys like Jackson Meeks, another guy from Georgia. So I mean, that they went and got a couple of dudes from Georgia. They're just plugging them in. But I could see them having a solid season just because of what they brought in.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what they brought in. Well, I love what they were able to keep as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I mean, while there's a lot of exodus, I mean, they're able to keep their recruiting class intact from what it appears at this point in time. It doesn't appear that anyone's using the coaching change as anything. And just speaking of the coaching change real quick, I'm going to just kind of rattle off some of the new coaches that he brought in with him. Obviously, Fran Brown's the new head coach. He has brought in a new offensive coordinator, Jeff Nixon, who was the New York Giants running backs coach last year. Quarterbacks coach, Nunzo Campanile, who was formerly the Syracuse tight ends coach. So there's a guy that is staying on staff from the last year's regime.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver and passing game coordinator, Russ Douglas, New England Patriots wide receiver coach. Assistant wide receivers, Devin Reed was Delaware State wide receivers coach last year. Interesting, but okay. When I read that earlier, I was like, all right. Must be doing
strange.
Something right.
Yeah.
All right. Tight end Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson was formerly the Syracuse wide receivers coach. So another guy that gets to stay on staff. So majority what I take away from any Syracuse coach that stays on staff is that they may be a good recruiter, or have their hands in a lot of the recruits. And that's the kind of my takeaway of some of the Syracuse guys that stay on staff.
Yeah, I could see that.
Let's see. Offensive line, Dale Williams was the Louisville senior quality control analyst. Whatever. I don't
I mean, they need it. I don't know what it does, but hey, good job.
Yeah, that's what he did last year. That's all I know. The defensive coordinator, though, Elijah Robinson is coming from the Texas A&M. He was the Texas A&M co-defensive coordinator, defensive line, and assistant head coach to the interim head coach from last year.
Yeah, so, Texas A&M did not like losing him.
No, they did not.
I'll say I think he's made some really good hires, and people were happy with the hires that he made.
Yeah, I really do. Like some of the coaches were like, I don't know who they are.
Yeah,
but this particular one, Elijah Robinson, huge get. I think it's a really good get. I think the jury's kind of out for me on Jeff Nixon because I still have to kind of deep dive into kind of what his offensive philosophy is actually going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's got a lot of I don't want to say hodgepodge. Hodgepodge is not the right word. Mix and match talent going on with the new quarterback, with some other moving pieces that did not play together last year.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they put together the running game and the offense in general.
Yeah, he's got to fit the talent that's around him.
Yep,
and
he's got to.
But having a good quarterback really helps. And again, I know we've talked about the portal, but you keep going back to it because, there's a lot of buzz around this program going into 2024.
Yep.
And you look at guys like Clarence Lewis, cornerback coming in from Notre Dame. You stole a prospect from Louisville in Marcus Washington, cornerback that's 6'1". These are guys that are just going to help, either rotate or again be starters. That's why they're transferring. They're looking for that opportunity. And last season, you had the 97th ranked offense. It wasn't pretty, but that defense 65th, that's not horrible. You're in that mid-range of production and being able to stop people, total yards and all that. Yeah. Not bad. So if you can build on that with all these guys you're bringing in, this could be a dangerous team.
It's going to be a dangerous team, and the schedule lines up, I think, really it spaces out really nicely for them.
That is true.
Where they kind of have some I hate using the word cupcake, but some not as serious opponents. We'll just go there. We'll say it like that. And they have their first three games are Ohio coming in, Georgia Tech coming in, and Stanford coming in right out the gate. So they start their ACC campaign off pretty quickly.
Yeah, week 2 and against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and then week 3 against Stanford.
Yep.
Then they get kind of, I don't want to say a break, but sorry, Holy Cross, it's a break.
Yeah. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you. All right.
Yeah. But I mean, they should take care of Holy Cross just fine. And then they have to go out to UNLV. And this is where I think the schedule gets a little tricky for them. Because it's UNLV, then they go out to UNLV, then they got to come all the way back to play at NC State, and then third in a row, and then at Pittsburgh, 3 away games in a row. This is where I think they may or may not have a stumbling block somewhere in these 3 games.
Yeah.
And then obviously they finish out with a pretty rough one as well. I mean, they go Virginia Tech, at Boston College, at Cal. UConn comes in, and then they got Miami coming in to end the season.
Yeah, you mentioned all the teams, and when I look at it, you realistically could have, because again, I think Georgia Tech's going to have a strong offense, but the defense is a concern for me. That's one that you could go in 3, 4. Sorry, I'm counting again.
No, you're good.
5. You can have 5 wins right off the start. UNLV is going to be one of the better group of 5 teams. So that's a tough game. But with what you're bringing in and the talent you have at quarterback, you should be able to win these games. So you could have a 5-0 start before going and play NC State.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's the travel right now. Is like that's the whole thing. That's the reason I kind of wanted to point that out, is that they got to go all the way out to Las Vegas, and then they come back, spend maybe 3 days of 3 or 4 days, 3 days of practice, depending on the travel time and how that all kind of shakes out.
Yeah.
And then they got to head over to Raleigh to play NC State, which is probably one of the favorites to be in the top tier of the ACC this year.
Yeah, absolutely valid points, bro. The travel is going to be different this year for a lot of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned Virginia Tech. We got to watch out for them. I feel good about that team. So that could easily be a stumbling block. Now, I'm not saying that Syracuse is going to go off and win 10 games in his first year.
Not at all. It's just at second glance, I feel like the schedule maybe doesn't line up as well as I initially thought when I was looking at it earlier. I'm just looking at it now. I'm like, well, back-to-back road games, and then they have another back-to-back road game where they go at Boston College, and then they got to go all the way back out to California to play at Cal.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly an easy little 2-game stretch either.
Yeah, so I think it still lines up nicely with the teams that they play, but you're right, the travel does suck. At least there is a bye week in between NC State and Pitt. That helps a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're over under 6.5 this year for a first-year head coach.
Okay.
So I could definitely see them hitting that.
I could see them going 5-0.
Oh yeah.
And then it gets a little tricky.
And then you only got to win 2 more to hit the over. So I mean, that's
I still think they'll beat I know they'll beat UConn. So that's 6 right there. And I think that they'll be, at minimum, they'll be competitive with most of these teams outside of maybe NC State and Miami. Everybody else, I mean, it could be a game all day long.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've got a lot going for them. There's a lot of buzz around Syracuse, guys. So that's one to keep an eye on. But Trev, anything else on these teams?
No.
Again, these aren't projections. These are just, hey, we're looking at their teams, looking at rosters. You know, we're taking notes on all this and just kind of giving you a feel for the program.
Absolutely.
And what
you said you wanted to touch base on the college football CFP 25.
Yeah, real quick on Reddit. You know, they put out. I say Matt Brown put out on his extra points account that there will be another release of information next week and then some the week after. So I don't know what that means. Some are saying it's more gameplay. Which would be fantastic, and we'll get the community rolling. So
I would love to get some more details on some dynasty action.
Absolutely. But that's all I had. Just a short little tidbit. But
all right.
excitement across the board. 2024 is rolling on. It's getting closer to game day. We're sub 100 days. So just get ready for it and listen to these and get you ready for who are you going to play? Who are your teams going to play? Kind of give you a better idea instead of just going like, oh, well, it's California. They suck. Do they, though? Do they?
Yeah, do they?
So we'll see. But either way, please like, subscribe, follow, share with your buddies. If you know fans of these teams, throw them at us. Hit them up, send them to us on their ats, whatever. And I'd like to talk football. So just hit us up. And Trevor and I are always available. Our handles are here on the bottom of our video. You can see them under our names. So that's it for us tonight. And then again, we've got more ACC previews coming up real soon. Hope you guys have a great one. See you later.
Take it easy.